It's the summer of 1858. Town squares across Illinois are packed with thousands of people like farmers, merchants, abolitionists, and even women and children that gather to hear these two men debate. Under the hot sun, there were no microphones or television cameras. Reporters sat down on wooden crates, furiously scribbling notes for the newspapers that would carry these words across the whole nation. Words across the whole nation.
The most defining political moments before the Civil War. 7 debates across the state, each lasting 3 hours. These debates were not just campaign events, they were moral and political confrontations that shaped the nation's future, of slavery, and the moral direction of the United States. Stephen Douglas, Democratic Senator from the Illinois, author of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, defends the rights of settlers in new territories to decide for themselves whether to allow or forbid slavery, and Abraham Lincoln, a lawyer, unknown political figure, Republican runner up, challenging Douglas, framing slavery as an immoral institution that should not be allowed into new territories. In 1858, Lincoln, the Republican challenger, ran against Stephen Douglas, the Democratic senator. They both agreed to debate 7 times in towns across the state. The debates lasted for 3 hours. One candidate spoke for an hour, the other spoke for an hour and a half, and then the first returned for a 30-minute rebuttal. The main issue discussed in every debate was slavery's expansion into new western territories. Douglas argued for popular sovereignty while Lincoln opposed the idea, saying slavery was morally wrong and must not spread any further than it already is. Lincoln's House Divided speech was more than a campaign introduction, it was a warning. He argued that the Kansas Nebraska Act was part of a system that would eventually spread slavery throughout the nation. Lincoln warned that America was on a path where it would eventually have chose between becoming entirely slave or entirely free. Lincoln viewed the issue as a moral one. He believed slavery contradicted the principles of liberty and equality that the United States was founded upon. Lincoln questioned Douglas' ideas of popular sovereignty. He asked how something as deeply wrong as slavery could be decided by local votes. Douglas's answers satisfied some Illinois voters, and he ultimately won the Senate race. However, his arguments divided the Democratic Party and damaged his reputation in the South, while Lincoln's words elevated him as the leading voice of the Republican Party.
These debates drew massive crowds, sometimes over 10,000 people, which was an enormous number for the time. People traveled by wagon or train for miles to hear them. Newspapers published the full transcript word for word, and the printing press turned these debates into one of the first examples of mass political media.
These debates helped strengthen the abolition movement. For the first time, a major political figure made a moral argument against slavery that reached a national audience. Thanks to the printing press, full transcripts of each debate were published across the whole country. Newspapers in both the North and the South reprinted these speeches, allowing thousands of Americans to follow the argument word for word. This national coverage transformed what had started as a state election into a national conversation about slavery, morality, and freedom. These debates also revealed the deep divide in public opinion, eventually leading to the Civil War. Douglas's emphasis on local choice failed to satisfy both abolitionists and Southern slaveholders. Lincoln, on the other hand, presented a consistent moral vision that helped unify Northern opposition to slavery and gave new direction to the Republican Party.
The Lincoln Douglas debates gave the abolition movement a stronger political foundation and helped awaken the conscience of a divided nation.